Today we're back in the Mixer Vocal series and we're gonna talk about reverb. Hey, what's going on? Chris here from MIXDOWN Online, and today I'm going to share with you some very simple reverb tips that you can use on your vocals. But first, if you're new here on the channel, click on the subscribe button below and the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And again, please share and like this video. Okay, let's jump in. Now, vocal reverb. Now, the main goal of using a reverb is to add space and depth to a signal. In this case, my lead vocal. So the first thing I need to think of is the type of space that I want to add on my vocal, considering the mix I'm working on. Now, this is an up-tempo song, so I'm not going to go with something very large as far as a reverb goes, so I'm going to forget about using a hall. I'm going to go towards something a bit shorter, like maybe a short plate or a room, something like that. So one of my favorite reverb that I like to use is the EMT 140 from UAD, which is a plate reverb. And this one is kind of my go-to reverb. I love to use this one on snares, especially, and on vocals. You know, even if it's a long reverb, it works very well on vocals and even as a short reverb. So I'm going to try it out on this one to see how that sounds like. But first, I'm just going to show you how I routed my signal here. So I have my lead vocal track, which is an audio track. And if I click on the sends, you notice that I'm sending my signal into the V Reverb effects channel track, which is right here. And on this effects channel track as an insert, I have my EMT 140 reverb. And by the way, this is a stereo effects channel track because, you know, usually I tend to use stereo reverbs. It does happen that I use mono reverbs, but, you know, for this one, I am going to use a stereo reverb. You can also insert a reverb directly as an insert on your track if this is what you want. But on my side, I always use reverbs as a send effect. Now, something you need to consider, if you're using your reverb as a send effect, make sure the mix knob is at 100% wet. If you're using your reverb as an insert effect, you have to balance the amount of reverb with the dry and wet knob. Now we're going to listen to what the reverb sounds like, but first I'm going to have you listen to the dry sound of the vocal within the mix.
It's my condition, my complication, there's something in me.
So let's add a bit of reverb.
It's my condition, my complication, there's something in me.
My reverb time here is pretty low because I'm going towards a small space. So I brought my reverb time pretty low on this one. And now it's a matter of balance. Something I like to do to balance my reverb out is to do it gradually. So I bring my reverb fader down, and I bring it back up until I can hear the reverb pretty well. Then once the reverb is audible, I just bring it down a bit. So this way I can feel the reverb more than hearing the reverb. In this case, on a fast up-tempo song, this is how I like to do it. You know, things like that can be different from mix to mix. If I'm working on a slow tempo song, now I'm going to tend to make sure we can hear the effect of the reverb a bit more than on a up-tempo song. So for this one, I'm going to use that trick, and I'm just going to try it out with the mix, with the music going on, and you'll see what I mean.
It's my condition, my complication, there's something in me, out of position. It's no intention, this condescension. I'm seeing clearly my imperfection. I see that I don't know why I.
Okay, so you get the idea. Now I brought my reverb down, okay, right after I was able to hear it correctly, to the point that you almost lose it. But when, I don't know if you noticed, but when I muted the reverb, you could tell that something was missing. So I just want you guys to listen to that correctly and make sure you are listening to this video with a good pair of headphones or a good pair of speakers. I'm going to play that again and notice that when I mute the reverb, a lot is going to be missing.
It's my condition, my complication. There's something in me out of position. It's no intention.
Now, a reverb will take a lot of space frequency-wise, and this is something that can actually add some masking to your mix and be problematic on the long run. So I tend to add a filter on the signal coming into the reverb or to EQ the reverb itself so I can make my reverb a bit more transparent. And at the same time, it's going to allow me to add a bit more reverb and still feel the reverb more than hearing the reverb. So let me show you what I mean here. I actually did a couple of videos on that before, but I just want to get back to it because this is quite of an important step as far as I'm concerned. So in Cubase, if you go into the pre-tab, the pre-section of Cubase, you have access to a low and high cut filter before you hit the inserts, which is quite useful. So I'm just going to activate it, and I already have some pre and high cut filters set up. So I am adding a filter on the send signal before the vocal hits the reverb. So I'm cutting everything below 580 Hertz and same above 3.7K to a 12 dB per octave slope. And this is what it sounds like if I just solo the reverb itself. I'm just going to do a before and after.
It's my condition.
Now we're only hearing the reverb, no dry signal.
There's something in me out of position. It's no intention. This condescension. I'm seeing clearly my imperfection.
So now let's listen to this in the context of the mix. I'm just going to bring the reverb higher so you can hear it better, okay?
It's my condition, my complication. There's something in me out of position. It's no intention. This condescension. I'm seeing clearly my imperfection.
Now you can hear the difference very clearly. So the effect of the reverb is a bit more present. So this is going to give me the chance to add a bit more of the reverb effect without having the reverb taking too much space in my mix. So that's why I like to use filters on the reverbs or before it hits the reverb. Now, like I said, you can use it on the reverb itself, so you don't have to do it before the signal hits the reverb. But if you want the reverb to sound more natural, using a filter on the send signal before it hits the reverb is the way to go. But you can also use the EQ directly on the reverb if you want. Most of the reverbs out there have access to an EQ directly on them, like you have on this one, where you can apply an EQ. It's actually a filter. It's actually a high and a low shelf filter where you can boost up to 12 dBs or cut down to 12 dBs, which is very useful. So if you don't want to use a filter before the reverb, you can do it directly on the reverb or add a filter after the fact, after the reverb as an insert, if you want to tone shape the sound of your reverb. So there's nothing wrong with that. You just go according to your taste and according to what sounds good in your mix. Now, I have two other points I want to share with you. Next, I want to talk about the pre-delay. The pre-delay on the reverb is something very powerful. Now, a reverb will tend to bring your signal back in the mix, and that is normal. But with vocals, especially on a pop song like this one, I want to keep my vocal up front. I don't want to lose the attack of my vocals by adding some reverb. So I'm going to use a pre-delay. So I'm pre-delaying the reverb by X amount of milliseconds that I see right here. So this one goes from 0 to 250 milliseconds. So let's have a quick listen in solo. I'm going to solo the vocal, and we'll hear the difference between no pre-delay and an extra long pre-delay so you can get an idea of what that sounds like.
It's my condition, my complication. There's something in me out of position. It's no intention, this condescension.
Okay, apart from the ghosting effects, you can hear that when the pre-delay is at 250 milliseconds, the reverb is delayed. Now, 250 milliseconds is way too much, so what I need to do is just to try to figure out how much pre-delay I want on my reverb. So I can sing that to the tempo of the song, or I can just try to match it by ears.
It's my condition, my complication. There's something in me out of position.
Just gonna bring it down.
No intention, this condescension. I'm seeing clearly my imperfection.
Okay, cool. So let's have a listen to what that sounds like. I'm gonna do it before and after.
It's my condition, my complication. There's something in me out of position. It's no intention, this condescension. I'm seeing clearly my imperfection.
Now, from that point, it's a matter of balance, but you got all the things that I do when setting up a reverb for my vocals. Now, the last point I want to talk about is don't be afraid to use presets. I'm not a big fan of presets when it comes to EQ and compression. There's too many factors that we need to consider. That doesn't make sense for us to use presets on compression and EQ, in my opinion. But for reverbs and delays, using presets can be a lot of help. So don't be afraid to use them. Using a preset in this case is very helpful. So let's bypass that EMT 140 and look for a room sound instead of a plate sound. And what I have here, I have the Reverence Reverb, which is a very nice reverb included in Cubase, and I kind of use it on a regular basis. And we have, if we browse the presets, we have like a bunch of different types of spaces, especially rooms, different types of rooms that we have access to. Like this one is the LA Studio. We have like a large live stage. So these presets are available for you to use. So if you have something in mind as far as a room or a hall goes, there's a bunch of good presets you can use out of this reverb. Another reverb I love to use is the Fab Filter Pro R. I did a review of this reverb 2 years ago, I think, so I'm going to leave the link on top if you want to check it out. And this is a special reverb that I kind of like, and again, a bunch of very nice presets. Like, for example, I was looking for something small, a small space for this vocal. And if I go into the small menu, I go down, I see, look at this, vocal rich space. Let's try this out.
It's my condition, my complication. There's something in me out of position. It's no intention, this condescension. I'm seeing clearly my imperfection. I see that
This actually sounds pretty good, only by using a preset. I can easily use that preset on this mix. So there you go. So this is how I work my reverbs for vocals. So as you can see, using a reverb doesn't mean always to use a large reverb. Okay, only a small space like what we did in this video can do the job, depending on the style of music you're mixing. So I hope that is going to be helpful for you. If so, like and share this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Until next time, see you.